I love taking naps. I mean, that's the best part of waking up is knowing that there's a nap somewhere in the day. I think if you need it, if your body's saying slow down, listen to it, and I have no problem with that at all. And I think like in life in general, it never, ever, ever, ever hurts to ask about something because if you get a no, nothing in your life changes. If you get a yes, that's when it does change. But no, everything's exactly the same. So who cares? And like relationships are far more important than your obligations to a job. No one is going to be buried with, like, here lies so and so, a dedicated employee. It's not going to be on your tombstone, but it might say, loving father, a devoted friend. Those are the things that matter, and your job is your job.
Welcome to the Collaborative Resource Hub by Wellness Provisions. We're bridging the gap between mental health, wellness, and rock and roll. I'm Amy McBride, owner of Wellness Provisions, the most badass wellness business. Hey, are you feeling a little stuck in life? I offer wellness coaching sessions. Book a session with me if you're seeking to get healthy and ahead. Sessions are available worldwide. And check this out. Wellness Provisions supplies rock and rollers with high-quality supplements. We've simplified your shopping experience and given you a trustworthy place to go where you can essentially shop blindfolded. And did you know all our Collaborative Resource Hub interviews air on YouTube as well as all major podcast platforms? Subscribe to stay in the loop. Go immerse yourself in the full Collaborative Resource Hub experience over on our website. You'll have access to helpful resources that will inspire and educate you. So let's inspire each other. If that guy did it, so can you. Last but not least, my legal disclaimer. Nothing in this interview or the Collaborative Resource Hub substitutes medical advice. Please connect with your GP if you need medical guidance. Chris, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Doing really well, thanks.
Good. So you are a punk artist, which is super rad. And for people who aren't familiar with your artwork or think they aren't familiar with it, what's kind of like a nutshell rundown of like your art career history background?
Well, I mean, I'm, kind of like how I introduce myself. If people don't know and they do know a little bit about, punk music, I can just tell them I'm the main artist for Descendents. So that usually registers with people. But if they're still scratching their head and they go, well, okay, I've done work for Rancid, I've done work for Blink-182, I've done work for The Damned, I've done work for Dead Kennedys, I've done work for Fear. I mean, like, these are ones that people go, oh yeah, and like eventually something like that will kind of click. But I've done work for, in my estimation, almost all of my favorite bands I've worked with. So I've kind of been at it for a little while. And I think more than anything, that's the impressive thing is the longevity of it. And you just kind of accumulate stuff through your life. So I've been, doing stuff professionally for over 30 years with my artwork stuff. So yeah.
That's so cool. What is there like a band that you love a lot that you haven't worked with yet that you want to?
Yeah, there's two that are kind of like my ones that I'm continuing to strive for. One, the Go-Go's, and two, They Might Be Giants. So those are two that right now, but actually it's funny you asked about that because last week I did a thing for the Go-Go's and I sent it to Kathy Valentine, the bassist. And Kathy's always been really very, very good to me in getting back and everything. And, she loved the design. But the band, she said, they've kind of gone on a little bit of limbo because Belinda is doing solo stuff for the moment. So She was like, I'm not sure when we'd be able to use something. But yeah, Go-Go's that's probably like the one that I really want to work with the most. And They Might Be Giants. They've just been kind of like a favorite band of my family's. Well, since we've been a family. So yeah. Those are the two that and of course, obviously, like the Clash and the Sex Pistols, I'd like to work with too. But they're not a functioning band anymore. They're not functioning bands, so that's kind of a different story.
Yeah. Have you been able to I guess like manifest sort of, like because this is a thing with some people. They have this ability, and I think it's so cool. They're kind of getting their head like, I really want to work with this person or this band or do this thing. And like, it's just like comes to them. Have you ever had
Yeah.
that experience?
Yeah, I mean, a fair amount, because it seems to me like well, like I said, I've been doing this for quite a while, and you kind of tend to know people. And I'm not the sort of person that A, burns bridges, or B, treats people poorly. And so because of that, I think people feel relatively comfortable working with me and passing things on to me. So if I just kind of like happen to say, yeah, I'm really interested in working with the Go-Go's. Who do I know? Suddenly people are going, well, I kind of know their manager, and their guitar tech is a friend of mine. And these things just kind of like happen relatively quickly. And it's kind of remarkable, because if I put my mind to something, more than likely I can kind of like follow through. It's like my wife is so funny, because she's always just like, well, just ask. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Like, and I think like in life in general, it never, ever, ever, ever hurts to ask about something, because if you get a no, nothing in your life changes. If you
Yeah.
get a yes, that's when it does change. But no, everything's exactly the same. So who cares?
Yeah, absolutely. That's said, you said that like so succinctly. I love that. It's true. Because
Yeah.
some people, they're so scared of even just asking or trying, and it's you literally have nothing to lose.
No, not at all. Not at all. So yeah, I think a lot of times if I get it into my mind that there's something that I want to be doing, or I want to be working with somebody, I kind of start putting it out there, and more than likely things come back to me. Doesn't mean I'm going to, definitely be working with them, but the path from point A to point B becomes much shorter.
Mhm.
Whereas when I was first starting off, I had no clue how to go about it. But you treat people well, and burn bridges, and hopefully people are looking out for you.
Yeah, and those are good, just like life
Yeah.
mottos or whatever, you be a good person, and then good things, you put out good and good things return.
Oh, I fully believe that, and I think if you want to look at like any religion's doctrines or whatever, anything boils down to don't be a dick. That's really all it boils down to. And it's like, you can get caught up in the dogma of whatever, but if you're not being a dick in life, things are going to be a whole lot better.
Yeah.
So that's what I try and keep with.
Yeah. And you, like in your own body, in your own mind, you feel better when you are
Yeah.
nice to people.
Oh, absolutely. Because I never want to feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I never want to feel like I had a weird run-in with somebody, and what's going to be like if I see them and I know they're going to be there, or it's unexpected and they show up. I never want to feel that way. And as a teacher, I never want to feel like my students can look back to some point in my life and go, wow, what happened here? Or they feel uncomfortable asking about something. I just want to make sure that I have none of those regrets that I can, like think are haunting me, or they're lingering, or, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Have you always had that kind of perspective, or have you sort of like shaped that as you've gotten older?
Obviously it's gotten stronger the older that I've gotten, but probably, I know this sounds super specific, but since 10th grade on, that's kind of where that came from. And I say 10th grade on because in my ninth grade year of high school, my family moved overseas. We lived in England, and I went to high school in England. My dad was in the Air Force. And my freshman year, I was just this little punker kid that was kind of sticking to himself. And people kind of just ignored me or whatever. People started to get to know me. And by the time my freshman year was done, there were a lot of seniors that, saw me and these two other friends of mine as being these threats to their popularity or their machismo or what. I don't know what it was, but they really wanted to, beat us up. Like, like a lot of punker kids in high school. And so the very large percentage of the senior class hated me and these friends of mine. Well, once they had all graduated, 10th grade rolled around, And people were like, well, they must have been kind of cool because they had all these people irritated and we didn't do, anything. So there were these people then that were kind of falsely being friendly and like, oh, well, maybe I need to. And that really was off-putting to me. So I kind of went the opposite direction, and I was really a jerk my 10th grade year in school. And by the time the year ended, I was like, well, that didn't get me anywhere either. And so it was kind of like Goldilocks, and I settled somewhere in the middle. So from junior year on, I was like, okay, I can't be like that. That didn't get me anywhere. That was wrong. And I mean, I think that at that point, like my perspective changed quite. Well, I was listening to a lot of really positive music too, and that
Yeah.
certainly helped. But yeah, I mean, it's been since about 1986, I guess.
That's I'm just like processing that. That's funny. So I always feel like the seniors who were like dicks to you and your friends, that's to me, that's just like they're jealous. You're doing, you're
Yeah.
putting yourself out there, you're being yourself authentically, as everybody says now, and they're just like, fuck that, and rip you for it.
Yeah, it was weird. And like, looking back, I mean, I can see that now. And of course, that's a parent's perspective at the time. But you're just going, yeah, but why don't they like me? They're trying to punch me. It's a different story. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And like what I've also come to realize is that, a lot of those people, you know, I think we've all experienced this. People that are overly aggressively angry in high school are holding on to something that they haven't dealt with yet, and
Or are at home being treated like garbage or whatever. Yeah.
right, right. So, I've definitely picked that up, through life. And, now that I do work with kids, I see that end of things a whole lot more. And so, now I'm kind of like, all right, well, they didn't know any better, or that was what they were taught, or,
Yeah.
whatever. So
And there's a quote, and I don't know, I can't remember like who said it, but it's something that I'd seen that basically, to paraphrase, says that the people who are the hardest to love are the ones who, need it the most.
oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, I've straight up been in meetings with kids and their parents, and I'll never forget. I had one student I got along really, really great with, but he was one of those types that would kind of swing back and forth. And I sat there in the meeting with his mom. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say this nowadays, but I looked at his mom and I said, I love your son so much, but sometimes I just want to kick his ass. And she said, oh, I definitely understand. And I said, honestly, I mean, he's so difficult to continuously want to love. I do, but I want to kick his ass sometimes. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
She
Yeah.
said, yeah, my husband and I feel the same way. So
Oh my God. So I don't think that we actually said out loud since recording, you are a drama teacher.
I teach drama at high school.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you balance being an artist, a teacher, a husband, and a father, and not feel guilty for also needing time for yourself?
Right. It's tricky, but the main thing that I always go back to is, my family always comes first, above and beyond anything else. And my son is really very good about letting us know, like my wife and I, if we're spending too much time doing something else. And so kind of our golden rule is, if he asks for our attention, we give it to him, very directly. I mean, he'll just say, hey, do you guys want to watch a movie tonight? Yes. And it doesn't matter what I'm working on, I drop it so that I have time for that. But that's also true for my wife too. So if she says I need help with something, okay, I stop what I'm doing and I spend my time, helping out or doing whatever. And I find if you keep in the back of your mind what's really important, like being able to balance those things is kind of tricky. But the other thing is that, like, I'm up really early. I stay awake a little bit later, and all that time in between, I try and squeeze a lot out of. So when I'm at school, if I'm on my lunch break, I'm eating, but I might be drawing too.
Yeah.
So, I eat really quickly, but I have stuff and I'm working on it during my planning period at school. If I've gotten all my work done for school, I'm working on things there as well. And just any of those opportunities that I have, if I see that there's like a spare 15 minutes here and I need to read a play for something that's coming, well, I'll read, like the 15 pages I can get through in those 15 minutes. And then, I'm a good time manager, I think is really that's one thing that I can say confidently about myself. I'm an excellent time manager.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna, I mean, you're filling every like segment of your day. Do you like, how do you keep track? Do you like keep lists or something on your phone? Like, how do you even keep track? Or is it all in your head of like the things you know you need to do?
Most of it is in my head. I mean, I really should be better at using my notes on my phone and using like a calendar and stuff like that. I don't. But I'm pretty good about that. If there's a lot of things, especially during the summertime, if there's a lot of things that are coming up that I need to get to, I do. I mean, I it's right here. I mean, I have a clipboard that I just keep notes on, or like if I have like commission work, I'll have like, who is it? Where did they contact me? Have I been paid? How much have I been paid? And that way I just follow that list,
Uh-huh.
and I don't like, jumping around. I like going, you are first, you're done. You are next, you're done. You are next, you're done.
Yeah.
Sometimes things just pop up when I have a brief little moment and I can knock it out, which is great. So I try and keep it all in my head.
Does it
And
give you anxiety though?
no, no, not really. I'm not a very anxious person because like I just figure it's all gonna get done, and like I said, since I am a good time manager, I know how long projects will take. So if somebody says, oh, I need this t-shirt design done, and I understand what they're looking for, I can say, all right, that'll be 2 days once I get started to be finished with it. So I know that. And as
Yeah.
long as and if I start working, and I like working in the morning. So if I've been working for a couple of hours and I go, okay, I'm further ahead than I thought I would be. Okay, well, maybe tonight I don't have to work, and I can, be on top of things. So being a good time manager, I don't have much anxiety at all. And if I do, it just causes me to wake up earlier and then I just get it done. So,
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So
I
you're
mean,
proactive with it.
oh God, yes. I mean, I don't like putting things off. I never, ever, ever miss deadlines, but I need them. So if someone asks me, hey, can you get something done for us? I mean, our band's going to be recording and, it's coming out. I need to know you need it Wednesday the 17th. Because if they go, dude, anytime is fine, I won't do it because
Yeah.
it's not a priority. If you don't care about when you get it, then I don't care about starting it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It's
and
like a mental thing.
it is. And, but it also comes down to obviously people that I know and care for a lot take priority and precedent over things. So if 7 Seconds said, hey, we have another leg of our tour that we're going out on, we need a t-shirt design, can we get one tomorrow? It'll be done, they'll have it tomorrow. And that might mean that I'm putting off like a bunch of other things that are more jobs, but this is
Mhm.
something that I want to do, and it's for friends, so I make exceptions for sure.
Yeah.
Here's an advert in less than 20 seconds. Did you know that Wellness Provisions offers one-on-one wellness sessions? Yep. So if you're seeking to get healthy and ahead in life, but feeling a little stuck, then book a session and let's get you unstuck. Now back to the interview.
Do you ever struggle with, and it sounds like no, but like having creativity, like, is there like a switch or is it just always on? Or do you like, what's,
I mean, it's usually always on, and for me, I'm constantly thinking, like always. And so in the mornings, I take my dog for a walk for a half hour every morning, and I don't have a cell phone with me. I don't even have my wallet with me. I mean, if something happened to me, they wouldn't know who it was. But I take my dog out, and we go for a walk, and there's nobody out in the morning. I mean, a lot of times it's pre-dawn walking. And so the world is quiet, there's no distractions, and it's just me and my dog. So it gives me a chance to just think. and I'm a really very visual person, but I have a lot of things that are going on in my head that I'm visualizing as we're walking. And usually I'll get home and I'll go, okay, well, I kind of know where I need to go with this. And so when somebody says, hey, we're getting ready to go on tour, we're going to need something, I then start thinking and thinking and thinking. And if I'm listening to them a lot, sometimes ideas come from just, I've been listening to a lot of this band and there
Yeah.
are ideas. But deadlines are also a real motivator for me. So if I know I have to have something done, perfect example. Guy got a hold of me and he does a summer day camp thing for skating and surfing out in the East Coast. And he said, we have this summer camp and I want a t-shirt design for 2024. So it's like 2 years in advance. But he asked me about it and I was like, yeah, I'd be happy to do it. And he reminded me a couple of times and I was like, oh, I haven't gotten to that. I haven't gotten that. And very, very polite nudges, just, hey, just wanted to see if you had anything. And he asked me one morning and I read it before I took the dog out and I was like, oh, I really need to do that. He's asked a couple of times and I feel like a heel. I need to get it done. So I walked the dog and by the time I got back, I was like, okay, I got an idea and I did it that morning. It took me only a couple of hours and I was like, I'm done. It's finished. And like the deadline that I had in my head was I need to get this done by the end of the week. And that will motivate me. And pressure, I think, creates ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. And movement, like actual, like being
Oh,
physically
yeah.
active.
Yeah.
It's weirdly good for that too.
Oh, absolutely it is. I had kids that during the pandemic were extremely sedentary. And as a result, they were also super depressed and they didn't realize that there was physical movement that should be involved with them feeling better. So like I said, that walk every single morning, that kickstarts my day, and it kind of gets, everything going for, digestion and, just the blood flow of getting ideas going. And also it allows me to kind of like think through things. So, I mean, it's perfect. And like I said, it's usually pre-dawn. So there's nothing else going on. And that really, I think that it used to be before we had dogs, I would take a really long bath every morning and it was my think tank. I just sit there and just think,
Yeah.
what am I going to do?
That's funny. Think tank in the bath. I like that.
Yeah.
How do you deal with like adversity or coping with curveballs or negative kind of feedback or stuff like that? How do you deal with that?
I don't know. I mean, just as it comes, I don't anticipate those sort of things. But I do like to address them pretty quickly if I can. And if it's if it's criticism that's happening online, that's something that then becomes not public. I do the best that I can to deal with things in a very quiet manner directly with someone. And, honestly, there's little of that I have to deal with. At school, there's a lot. I mean, I have stuff, kids that aren't getting along or a kid that, something's going on at home. And I pull them aside all throughout the day and deal with it directly and immediately and just, ask what's going on. So like I said, I'd like to do any of that, whether it's me or it's my students. I like to do it quietly, immediately, and privately. And, you can usually get to the root of those things pretty quickly. And I find that, just talking through whether it's, online or in person, people, once they've got a chance to kind of express whatever it was that was irritating them or they weren't happy with or whatever, if you hear them out, you can kind of see their perspective and you may not agree with them or whatever, but at the very least, open up a dialogue and usually get to the root of the problem and move on.
Yeah. 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 Being direct. And what about, so like you personally, if you get like, just life or work or whatever, like, do you do like journaling or, some more walks than usual to like process? What do you do?
Probably more coffee, honestly, there's never too much coffee for me. And I do tend to be like, I have a lot of this pent up stuff that needs to come out. And, for whatever reason, you get a little bit of coffee
and it just fuels you.
It's better, or I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's anything in particular that I do to deal with that. You just take it as it comes,
Yeah.
and try and directly kind of deal with it. Like I said, it does mean some nights I don't sleep nearly as well, but then I'm up earlier, and then I just use that as like, okay, now it's time that I can do other things. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Do you ever take naps?
Oh God, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I love taking naps. I mean, that's the best part of waking up, is knowing that there's a nap somewhere in the day.
That's good. That's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my wife, she physically works a lot. So what she does is, she's a textile artist, and she works with glitter vinyl, and she cuts with an X-Acto knife glitter vinyl pieces and creates these beautiful portraits, but she uses this industrial sewing machine. And so and it's really, really hard work on her fingers and her arms, because I mean, there's a lot of cutting. There's a lot of, physical manipulation.
Back too, probably.
Yeah. So she physically will get pretty wrecked. And, like if she's working all morning and we have lunch, she might be like, hey, how's a nap? So, hell yeah. So hour later, we're recharged, we're ready to go again. But yeah, I think if you need it, if your body's saying, slow down, listen to it, and I have no problem with that at all.
That's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, because I know people who they say they can't nap, like it's just not possible, or they feel worse after a nap, or they just try which this used to be me. I used to just try and plow through and ignore that feeling, because I'm like, adults shouldn't need naps. Well, yeah, they're really healthy for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love them. I really, really do. It feels like, especially if I'm working on plays a lot, I get run down, because if I'm doing a play, I've done a full day of school. I come home for an hour and a half, and I leave, and I'm gone for another 4 hours. And then I come home, I have maybe an hour, and then I'm going to sleep. So it's packed. And then there's trying to get artwork done and all that in between. So when I come home, if I can squeeze in, like 40 minutes I need that because if I don't have energy for me, then I don't have it for kids. And that's not good. So if I want them to be performing at a high energy level, I have to have energy myself. Mm-hmm. And I'm a real firm believer in leading by example in both, in your attitude and how you deal with people, and also in your approach to actually physically getting things done. So if I'm lethargic and complainy, then my kids are going to be that way, and I can't reprimand them if they're doing that. So I try and be like at the top of my game when I'm around them, because they deserve that. And as a parent also, I want to know that my son is being taken good care of when he's not with us. And I can't expect that others are going to do that if I won't do it myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah. Is there anything else that you, I guess, like add into your life that helps you, whether it's like sporadically or daily, to just like feel more like grounded and like, fueled and just like healthy, I guess?
Like I said, the walks, I know drinking copious amounts of coffee is not healthy, but I do that, and that honestly does kind of like, it's great. But I also, my wife and I, especially this summer, we have breakfast together every morning. We sit down, we talk about what's coming up in the day and what do we need to do and that sort of thing. And that does really kind of help. So, but the thing that ends my day is the best part of my day. And so every night, usually about an hour or two before we go to bed, my wife and my son and we have like a bed that adjusts. So we get in bed, we got this huge TV, and we'll watch a few shows before going to bed. And so the three of us and the dogs are in our bed watching a few things and, just enjoying time together. And there's no phones anywhere near us. There's no other distractions. It's just the family together. And that is the thing that I look forward to the most out of my day. I mean, I wake up wanting to be in that position at the end of the day.
Yeah. So you wake up for naps and for family, chill time.
Oh yeah. So, I don't know if you remember, but Folgers had a commercial, and they, it was their jingle was, the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Yeah.
Well, we have it now. It's the best part of waking up is going back to sleep. So yeah, that kind of gets us through the day. So it's the coffee limping us through to a nap, and then limping through to, laying in bed watching stuff.
How old is your son?
He's 19.
Oh my God. Because I figured
I know you'd think he's like 5. Yeah, he's not.
I figured he's older. And then you talk about the bed thing. I'm like, oh, so he must be like 7.
Nope. No. And and that's something that, like, as an adult, I feel so proud that I have this, I say child, but he's a young adult.
Yeah.
But we have a son who wants to do that and wants to spend time with us. And there's nothing that's creepy or weird, or like, why is he doing? It's just, that's just who we are. And we are a highly loving family. And like our son, up until like 12, wanted to hold hands with my wife going places. And I was like, dude, at a certain point, you're going to have to stop that. Because like, one, I don't want CPS coming after us. And like, 2, I don't want people that don't know us to think, is there some weird thing going on? Like, and he is perfectly well adjusted, but it's like, he's never had any problem, just spending time with us. And in fact, he and I have, like, this sounds so stupid, and saying it out loud, I know it sounds so stupid, but he and I, from a very early age, would get like matching outfits. Like, he's got, like these white pants, and he's got like this striped shirt, and I have the adult version. So, but we still do that today. And like, we'll go places wearing matching clothes. And like, now it's not so much, like we're doing it just kind of like accidentally happens. But we used to do it on purpose a lot. And like, I was just like, man, I love this. I hope this never ends. Well, it hasn't, and now he's an adult, and it's like, I don't know. You make the life you want, and we've got it.
That's so cool though. And I bet, like, I don't know, there's so many people, whether they are young people or they grow into adults, and they just like, they didn't have awesome upbringings. And so like, I'm sure so many of his friends, or people, they're just like envious of like your relationship. That's awesome.
Yeah, I see kids that have great family lives and that have virtually no family lives. And having seen that for a really long while, that kind of told me, or what do I really want? And like, there was one point where my wife and I talked about it, and she was like, this was when our son was really young. And she said, it feels sometimes like you're giving more to other people's children than you are to our own. And that really, really got me thinking. And I was like, okay, that will never, ever happen. And that was very, very early. I mean, like, he was like a year old or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I always made sure that there would be a lot of time for that. And so that he would, because like, the last thing I want is, I don't want him, in his 40s or whatever, sitting on a couch somewhere with a therapist going, well, tell me about the root of your problem. And, he's going, well, my parents never had time for me, and I never felt loved, or I was neglected, or emotionally, they were never there for me. So we try to be really conscious about that in the moment, to go, I don't ever want that to happen. And even so far as like, we'll check in with him and go, are you feeling like we're spending too much time with you? Do we not have enough time with you? Is there something that you want? What do you want to do today? Like, and just asking him. And, if he ever says, no, I kind of feel like, maybe we could be doing a little bit more, maybe we need to do family game night or something, then we do it. You just listen to what they need.
Well, and you ask how many, like, realistically, how many people actually
make that first step and ask. That's
Yeah.
really,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's good for any kind of relationship, whether
yeah.
it's, family or not, if you perceive that somebody needs something or is wanting something, ask them about it. And then, and listen, to what they have to say. And I'll never forget it. Like my wife and I, when we were first dating, we had some mutual friends, and we went over to their house, and their family was doing a big game night, and they were like, "Hey, we're gonna get pizza. What does everybody want?" So they asked, which is good. So I said, "I only eat cheese pizza. That's it. So please, 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 just a cheese pizza, or even half of a pizza that's cheese. That's all I want." Great. Okay. So they asked everybody. And then they ordered all of these, the meat lover and the carnivore platter, and then the mushroom supreme and the Hawaiian. Absolutely no cheese pizza. And I was like, you know what? Why did you ask if you're not even going to listen? And that really irritated me for a variety of reasons, because one, it just feels it's disrespectful. And two, I was hungry. Like I'm at someone else's house and I'm going, I'm hungry. I am not going to eat this. Why are you doing this to me? Why would you do that? So ask, but then always listen.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a sad pizza story.
It is. I know. And it's like, pizza always should be happy stories.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not.
Oh man. If you had to create a day for yourself, which I'm assuming hopefully you really do this in summertime.
Yeah.
That is like a self-care day, just filled with the things that make you feel happy and balanced, what would it consist of?
So if I can do it with all three of my family members, that's going to be there. But more than likely, this is what will realistically happen, because I do this a lot of times. It'll be what I refer to as my dad and lad day. So me and my son, I'll go, all right, Sam, you want to go? We're going to go out today. And he's like, all right. So we'll go and do whatever. We'll maybe go into San Francisco and run around there for a while, or maybe Sacramento or whatever. We'll go somewhere and do something together during the day. If it can involve a record store, that's even better. And then we come home, have dinner together, and then watch some things together. Now, if it's like a vacation, I use air quotes because like we never really have a vacation because we're always working. Like we always have stuff to do. But if we can get away and go to Monterey,
Yeah.
that's perfect, because like I think that's the place where my whole family, like our brains totally tune out. And I had been working on a play, and it was very stressful at school at the time, and things were really really difficult. And we were coming up to a weekend, and my wife said, we need to get away this weekend. We need to go to Monterey. And so she just booked a room, and we went. And I remember in the moment feeling overwhelmed by just life and everything that was going on. But the minute that we left, I felt all of that just disappear. And she's smart enough to see those things, and she can kind of see, the warning signs of we need to take a break. And we acted on it, and I mean it was the best, and it was so profound that I was reminded that yes, you do have to do that sometimes and completely stop and do something that's just for yourself, whether it's going to a movie or therapeutic record shopping or whatever. But like that's a big one for me. If I can get out and do that for a little bit, I mean I'd love it still.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the other thing too, I think that's important, like for people who are super duper busy and you do carve out time to like get out of town or, like have a proper vacation, giving yourself, whether it's so many hours or a day, to like reacclimate back to life, because it's like you end up regretting, like, why did I even take this vacation? Because you're slammed as soon as you get back.
Right. Having said that, we were just in Southern California, got back last night at 10:30, and I was going, why did I schedule a podcast for the next morning? Like, and that was all me, because I was like, I don't care, whenever, the earlier the better. And like, meanwhile, here we are driving back home from LA last night, and I was going, why did I do that? Like, I know it's going to be on my mind. It's fine.
Sorry.
No, it's totally fine because like I still have like a week and a half of my summer and then I'm back to school. So I'm squeezing what I can out of this last little bit.
Yes. Well, good. Thank you for making time even more.
Yeah, of course.
Um, okay, like nearing the end of this, I got a question that I like asking parents. Is there anything, and since your son is older even, that really important that you want to impress upon him, that you want him to like, learn or optimize, like to get out of life?
Be aware of your surroundings.
Hmm.
I mean, physically be aware of your surroundings, like know where you are, know how to read a room, know when you're in a situation that you probably should be out of quickly, know when you're in a place where you can be open and there as long as you want, but be aware of your surroundings. I mean, I think that's so important, especially with teenagers. Teenagers don't seem to pay a whole lot of attention to like what's going on around them. It's very much like it's just what's in front of me, and that worries me sometimes because I'm concerned that things might happen simply because people just really weren't aware of where they were, what they were doing, or that kind of thing. So, I mean, I think, and that's true for anybody. I think just being aware of your surroundings is very, very important. And I think it's something that a lot of people don't actually like take time to address. And I never forget, my son was telling me one time at about, I don't know, maybe like 10 or 11, he started like wanting to go for like longer walks himself. And, we live right off of like what is called the Miracle Mile in our town. And of course, that's like a shopping area, and there's a lot of stuff that's going on. But we live about 2 miles from a local mall and like Target and that kind of stuff. And so he's gotten to the point where he like wants to go on these walks where he's going there and whatever. So he does this, and it takes him several hours throughout the day. And at times we were like, well, is he even aware of like if there's any problems or anything? So we were just driving around one day, and I was like, have you ever had anybody give you a hard time? And he said, well, once this one car was kind of coming, and somebody was yelling at me, and I said, well, what'd you do? And he goes, well, I just turned in the opposite direction of where they were going, and I just ran. And I just went, we're right on, like and we never went over anything like that, like, what do you do or whatever, but he was very aware of like what was going on. And I was like, oh, that's really great, because like, I would hate to think of, anything happening to him when, we're not around and we can't pay attention. But when he told me that, I was like, okay, he's paying really good attention to that. And I think, he's going to be okay. But I like I said, I get so worried about kids that seem vulnerable, that aren't paying a lot of attention, I mean, and I think that's just something that you learn from going to shows, like read the room.
Yeah.
Like, where's the guy that's gonna, hit me in the back of the head when my like you kind of need to know that kind of stuff.
And knowing to stand like a certain way because like they're probably gonna slam into. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I mean, like so much of what I've learned in life comes from going to shows.
Oh,
I mean, let's be honest, that's where I spend a lot of time. So, you better pick things up.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've really, really learned that's a great one is just like always, always, always travel like you know what you're doing. And people will allow you to do whatever that might be. Because you look like, oh, okay, well, that guy looks like he knows what he's doing,
Yeah.
I've gotten away with so much stuff just walking past like security, and like I wasn't on the list, I didn't have a pass or anything, but it's like they're not going to stop me. I look like I know what I'm doing.
Confidence, for real. That even works. That just made me think. I was driving somewhere with my friend one time. I didn't know where we were going, but I was driving, and he was like, "Do you even know where we're going?" But I was going like faster than the speed limit. But I had no idea where to turn or whatever. But still, I was like, I'm just going to keep, I don't know. Something about that made me think of what you said.
Yeah. Just be confident. That's fine.
Yeah. Is there a quote that you like a lot?
Yes. So one of my favorite movies is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And if you haven't seen it before, John Candy, Steve Martin, two very odd couple meet on their way back to home in Chicago on Thanksgiving, and all of the perils that they face, and the way that they have to go from point A to point B is very interesting. So anyway, these two guys, line up together. And at one point, John Candy's character says, like your job, love your wife. And that is the best quote and I live by that one, because I think a lot of times people have their priorities skewed, and whether you're married or you're not married, it really doesn't matter, because the point in that quote that I love so much is know your priorities. Like, know that a job is a job, even if it's your career. That's a job. You're doing that to get paid, to be able to pay your bills and do all that kind of stuff. And that's important, but that's not what you should be living for. You should be living for, your family. And whether that family is you just have a cat, fine, then you're living for the cat. If you do have, like a spouse or a significant other or kids or whatever, you live for them. Like, and don't forget, like, that's truly the important thing. And like, relationships are far more important than your obligations to a job. No one is going to be buried with, like, here lies so and so, a dedicated employee. It's not going to be on your tombstone, but it might say, loving father, a devoted friend. Those are the things that matter, and your job is your job. So like your job, love your wife. That's my favorite one.
I mean, it is. It's about relationships, like love and experiences in life. And like, I mean, I have my own business, and even that, it's an extension of me, but my life and my, outside experiences are what I live for, even.
Yeah. Well, and they need to be. And, I think for a lot of people, they're in a position where they think that their career or their job has to give them the most satisfaction out of life. And then a lot of times they equate success in financial terms. And so that, coupled with my job is supposed to be my fulfilling thing, it's like, then what are you living for? Like, are you living just to make money and just to push a business, whatever that business is, along? Or is there something bigger and deeper, and like I said, I do firmly believe in, leading by example. And and so in my classroom, my kids see the way that I treat my wife and my son, and I bring them up frequently in conversation. I mean, I spent most of the time talking about them here, but you do that about the things that you care about. And, for some kids who maybe don't have that, to see that, not to go, oh man, my life sucks, but to go, you know what, when I am in an age where I can do something, maybe I want to do something more like this than what I've experienced myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. 100 times yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I've had plenty of time to think about this stuff. I mean, like, this is like, and that's part of why I got into teaching in the first place, is I love artwork, and I wanted to, pass that on to kids, but also because I felt like, and I knew this from a very early age, that I would be a teacher, and that I would want kids to be able to, and I'm by no means am I perfect or correct or right or anything, but I do feel like I can provide a good example for kids that maybe need one. And so that was something I really wanted to pass on, because like, I got that from music. So I got that from growing up, listening to the Dead Kennedys and the Big Boys and 7 Seconds and Black Flag and like all of that stuff that I got, I've internalized and brought it down to like the core philosophy that I then try and pass on to other kids in a different manner. And I feel like if I can do that, then maybe some of these kids will grow up and do bigger and better things than like anything I could have ever hoped to achieve, and that's kind of what I want.
Yeah, I mean, it's that mix of like education and inspiration. It's so valuable.
Yeah. And I don't kid myself and go, oh man, I'm awesome, like kids are lucky to have me. I mean, I don't do that, but I figure if you can get something out of it that is going to be good for you, and maybe it's just that it ignites in you an idea that is your idea. It has nothing to do with me, but maybe I provided an atmosphere where that was okay. It
Yes.
was okay to think outside of the box a little bit and to have a difference of opinion, and to be yourself is encouraged, and it is nurtured. So I mean, that's what I want more than anything.
Yeah. And for the record, I think you can very well say that you are like an awesome teacher, because you are, and it's okay to own that.
Well, now I will say this. The people that I have known in the past that do that have a lot of problems. I mean, I find it's true. It's like any teacher that thinks a
Overcompensating.
little. Yeah, I feel like, one, maybe they never wanted to like be done with high school, so that's why they're teaching. And almost invariably, they have inappropriate relationships with students. I mean, when they become a little bit too full of themselves, their lines get blurry.
Weird.
It's really weird, and it's scary. So I've always been really very mindful of that, because I've seen bad examples, and I just go, oh, okay, cool. Well, that's not me, and that never will be. So yeah,
So you are a very mediocre teacher.
yeah, I am. But having said that, I did, and I don't know if this counts or not, but like I have a statue that says best dad ever. But the funny thing is I bought this for myself, which I don't know if that counts or not. But anyway, yeah, so I do have that. But like, like my wife and I always joke about like world's okayest, whatever. World's okayest. I could be an okay teacher. That's fine. I'll own that.
Yeah. I just said to someone today, I said, I hope you have like a tolerable to pretty okay day.
Yeah.
He'd be excellent, but like let's be realistic. I hope it's tolerable at least.
Well, the problem is that a lot of times when like you have like the expectation that it needs to be at a certain level, it never is. So, aim low and you'll be happy with what you get.
That's it. Which actually, that's a good segue into my last question.
Yeah.
So the tagline for my business, because I do the podcast, but then I also do like wellness coaching, I sell supplements and stuff, is delay dying. So I like to ask, if you had to give someone tips or advice on how to delay dying, or in other words, just live happier and healthier, what would you say?
Cut out the things that you don't need. Whether that's in a dietary sort of thing, or like a relationship sort of thing, cut out the things that you don't need. When my wife and I moved to California from Colorado, there were some relationships that we had in Colorado that started to be really one-sided, where it felt like we were doing more of the work. And some of those things, when we moved, we just went, okay, that's it. We're gone from, and we don't need to keep pursuing those things. And the difference that made in our lives was just remarkable. We really just kind of went, okay, we didn't need that. And we put it aside, and it's massive. So if there are things that you can recognize in your life that are not needed, that aren't actually, they're not doing anything to better you, and you can do without them, cut them out.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it feels just like, especially for like non-physical stuff, like relationship sort of things, boundary related things, it just feels like a weight's been lifted.
Oh, it does. And you can kind of like put that stuff in your past and not, like say, oh, okay, well, that was a waste of time or whatever, but that was in my past. And as I move forward, I'm going to work towards, better whatever, and learn from those things. I think like to paraphrase it, like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Uh-huh.
So if you see those patterns that exist for those type of relationships, you just go, okay, I see the red flags, so I avoid that. My wife and I had just run across a person relatively recently that was showing major red flags about where that relationship would go, and we've dealt with that sort of person before. So immediately both of us recognized it and just went, okay, we are not continuing to work with this person because we know where that's going. So, learn from those things. And then, once you have cut them out, you look for those patterns and then you just avoid going back to them.
Yeah. Amazing.
And I think that's gonna, that makes you so much happier because you're not spending a lot of time stressing out over, the things that are detrimental to, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult when things are really one-sided. In any type of relationship, whether it's a work relationship or a personal relationship, if it's just like one-sided, it's draining, and it's like, what are you getting out of this? Like, just cut it out.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, like, yeah, because that's like a whole like rabbit hole, but so many people have trouble actually allowing themselves to separate from that and those patterns. So it's like seek out assistance because like it's super important.
Oh yeah, for sure. And, because a lot of times you can't even recognize it.
Hmm.
You're just it's just maybe it's just kind of like how you grew up and you've just seen those things, and so it's comfortable. But just because it's comfortable doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah. Yeah, I like this is like a running thing with my podcast. It's like you just say so, it's just I can't top it. It's like there's so many mic drops with this.
Yeah.
Um, do you have anything cool coming up?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I'm constantly like working on stuff, and sometimes I've done stuff that's going to be out or going to be happening and I kind of forget about it. And a lot of times for me, it's like I'm in the middle of it and I'm excited and then I'm done and I forget, and then there it is. And I'm like, oh, that was pretty cool. I do know I like later today, I'm going to start working on a skateboard design for TSOL. So I'm doing that that I have to do today. And not, I mean, it's not cool, but I do this thing every year at the end of the year. For the state of California, there is a nonpartisan organization that does a publication that names the 10 or the 100 best non-elected California officials. And I mean, it's this prestigious sort of thing. And I do portraits for all of them. So I've been doing this now for, I don't know, like 6 years or so. And so all 100 people in there, I've done their portrait, and most of them, to be really honest, I don't know who they are. I mean, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to politics. So I'm finishing that up, and that usually comes out like the end of September or the end of August, beginning of September. So that's always like this monumental thing that nobody really knows about, and it's just kind of like, whatever. So I'm doing that.
What's
Wife and I just, oh, go ahead.
what's the medium? Is it like the Sharpie drawings or like?
Oh yeah, I mean it's this, it's this sort of stuff right here. So I mean, I just have a stack of them, but yeah, it's every year they recycle the drawings if there's somebody that was in it, the year before. So I, usually I have anywhere from like, 20 to like 30 new ones each year to do. And like I said, since I've done it for so long, we just kind of keep going back to some of the older ones. But yeah, it's the Sharpie drawings. So which is good because those are quicker ones to knock out.
Yeah, I love those. I just love like the simplicity with like just the lines, and it's just cool.
Thank you. Yeah, and when I'm working on those, I mean, this is what I use right here. It's like it's just the regular Sharpie you get at like the gas station, and I just use computer paper and no pencils. So I just start drawing and like hope it's going to turn out okay.
Yeah. They're just neat. They're cool looking. I like the lions.
Thank you. Yeah, me too.
So yeah, man, thank you so much for making time,
Yeah.
waking up extra early, or I don't know, whatever, to fit this in your morning and sharing your insights. And I like your perspective for being, like a teacher and a father, and how that, how you connect with the world that way. It's interesting.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I work at it.
Awesome. Well, cool. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Amy.
Might say we're